Imagine if this was part of your school uniform. Or if you spent part of your day outside with a pair of these.
Oh, it just moved.
And how about wrestling with all this? These high schoolers are doing it all, and then some. They're students from Loma High School in Sacramento, California. And they're behind the Arcade Creek project.
Well, the motto for the past 11 years has been eradication, restoration, and education. And what the Arcade Creek project is all about is sort of restoring the creek back to how it was before.
It's run by juniors and seniors in the school's International Baccalaureate Science program. Science instructor Dean Karajanis is one of the advisors.
It's a totally student-run project.
Taylor, we need to start right here.
Students are the managers, the leaders.
The goal is to both keep an eye on and clean up this urban watershed that has its share of environmental problems.
Currently, we have a significant amount of invasive species that are found throughout our creek.
Because a lot of the creek water is actually from runoff and irrigation systems by the community, there's a lot of algal bloom and things in the water that aren't supposed to be there either.
That could be anything from like trash to like chemicals that have flown down from people's lawns and stuff.
What transect are we at, 3?
From hands-on field studies
Mission accomplished
to analysis back at the labs, these guys are taking back their creek.
I see it on her face.
By monitoring nearly a dozen aspects of the creek's ecosystem.
What we do is we map erosion patterns, we find impurities in the creek, and we try to figure out what we can do and what everyone else can do to fix it.
Today we've got the habitat, restoration, vertebrates, long mapping, biological assessment, and chemistry teams ready to show us how it's done. The mappers put these on, because soon they'll be knee-deep in this.
I like being outdoors and such, which is why I chose to do long mapping, because you actually get to be in the creek.
They're wading through the murky water to measure the creek's path.
So we have the tripod, and then we use the rangefinder. There's a laser that comes out of it, and we hit the points on the creek, and then it measures the distance there. So every time the creek curves, we measure another point. And then we connect the lines, and then we have the curve of the creek.
We look at the maps that we've had from last year and compare it to what we would get this year to see where the water has fallen and how the water lines have changed, to sort of see how the creek has eroded and such.
It's 10 meters by 10 meters.
Nearby, the habitat group is hard at work too. It's their job to look at physical features like bank height,
1.1 meter.
tree diameters,
4.2 centimeters.
and foliage.
About 1.2, 1.1.
So we're measuring how far out the branches go out from the tree. It determines how much sunlight enters the area of the creek.
It's really important in determining what kind of species can live here.
They also use this little gadget.
What we have is a piece of equipment called the densiometer, and it's like this little box where there's circles and there's a grid inside. And what we do is we hold it out in front of us and measure the foliage that is overhead.
And then you count how many squares are covered by the branches, and for this one it's 100%.
How many trees you have and what kind of foliage that you have overhead really determines what can live over here.
She's not just talking about plant life, but wildlife too. That's where the vertebrates team comes in.
We counted about 23 birds.
They're armed with binoculars and these.
We are here to observe and record all the vertebrates, mostly birds.
They're looking for large populations of certain species.
That's a way for us to assess the health of the creek because of the indicator species that we have, including the California quail, the magpies, and the acorn woodpecker. So the more we have of those, it's an indication that the creek is quite healthy.
Yep, it's a Nuttles.
If they find more non-native invasive species, that's a sign of trouble. And speaking of invasives, there are plenty of those down here.
I'm part of the restoration group, and what we basically do is we eradicate invasive species.
That's this stuff. They're plants that shouldn't be here because they're not native to the area.
Today we've removed catalpa and arundo because they suck up a lot of water and they actually make it really hard for the native plants to survive.
People really need to be careful about what's going down their water drains because most of the invasive species that have sprung out from the creek are because people are just leaving the seeds and stuff, and it's going down in the drain and it's really affecting the creek.
Now let's talk about what's in the water.
This is where we keep all of our samples.
That's what chem and bio students are studying back in the lab.
I really enjoy being a part of the Creek project because it allows an opportunity to really take a part in environmental reclamation.
The chemistry team checks out water quality. They're testing things like nitrate and phosphate levels.
Right here we're looking at nitrates. It's very important for determining how much plants can grow.
Basically, if we see spikes within those, that is a sign that there must be runoff of nitrate containing compounds, which are things like fertilizers, etc.
Our creek isn't too healthy right now, so.
Yeah.
Another way they can tell how toxic the water is by looking under the microscope.
So biological assessment looks in the benthic layer of the creek for macroinvertebrates, which are kind of like insect larvae or worms that kind of show how the creek is doing. The thing that we're looking for is this mayfly, which has a low toxicity tolerance. It shows that the creek is less toxic.
So from the lab to along the creek bed and in the water, these students are dedicated to protecting and preserving the planet in every way they can.
This is a very, efficient and wonderful study. It allows us to help out our community.
I thought that before we'd be getting all muddy and gross every time we're out here, but I really like coming out here because it seems like the air is clean and it's fun to be out here with your friends.
It feels really great to be a part of this.
I'm gonna miss it because I really do love this project. I love getting out here and I love doing my small part to help the environment.
It's a passion for the planet they hope to pass on to us all.
The environment is really all we have. I mean, without it, humans can be nothing. So it's really important for us to really understand that we have to appreciate the environment for what it is and we can't destroy it. It's really important to civilization.
Yeah, I have wonderful kids.